allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amber, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Before we get started, I just want to mention that there are 5 resolutions on the agenda that are going to be pulled. I was more concerned because I have a friend who I thought I might not be able to make tonight's meeting, so I was more concerned about whether or not this meeting would happen because I'd be in a caregiving role. But I'm here, but I failed to realize that with Albert off on vacation, that we don't have a quorum for 3 business on town property applications, Mr. Softy, Tuck Shop, and K-Pops, because I am recusing myself from those 3 resolutions because I have done business in my other life with one of them. So I feel it's too close to the time of severing all those relationships that I should still recuse myself on those applications. So we won't do those. And then WQI rebates, Meg recuses herself on those. So Waldbaumer and Kraus have to get pulled from this agenda too. So I apologize to all of those 5 people that they were on the agenda and I have to pull them. So I apologize. And I didn't get as far as thinking through the entire meeting. My brain was elsewhere. So that being said, is there any public comment on the resolutions that are not subject? Well, there's none that are subject to public hearing. I mean, other than setting public hearings. I don't see any hands, so we will go into resolutions. So Meg, if you would get us started.
Sure. Be resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, May 6, 2024 at 6:02 p.m. to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled, a local law amending chapter 129 entitled Wetlands to transfer approval authority from the planning board to the town board, of which provides as follows. And then what follows is the wetlands code with the changes making the process go from planning board to town board, and that's available at the clerk's office or online. And I just have to get to the end of that because it's very long. It's 12 pages long. And so the summary of that is to transfer the regulatory authority of the wetlands permits to the town board from the planning board. So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, May 6 at 6:04 p.m. to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled a local law to extend the moratorium on the processing and approval of dock permits by the town board, which provides as follows. It's a local law entitled local law to extend a moratorium on the processing and approval of dock permits by the town board, which provides as follows. I'll read the legislative intent. Due to the increased growth and the spread of development throughout the town, including the request for docks along Shelter Island's fragile shoreline and a growing disparity between the town code as written and the needs of our community, the town board enacted a 3-month moratorium on the acceptance and review of all new and pending dock applications. In accordance therewith, the town board charged the Water Management Advisory Council to review the adequacy of our current dock code and to rewrite same to balance the interest of upland owners' access to navigation against the public's use of the water for boating, fishing, swimming, and other recreational activities. While the WMAC has made great strides toward the completion of its review and redraft of the dock code, more time is required. Therefore, it is necessary for the moratorium to be extended to afford sufficient time for the completion of the draft and a public hearing to be had on same. And this would extend the moratorium 3 months through August 6, 2024. And the summary of the, and then if anyone's interested in the full draft, you can go to the website or check with the town clerk for the entire resolution. Summary of the proposed law is the purpose of this law is to extend the moratorium on the acceptance and processing of dock applications by 3 months to afford additional time to update the dock code. And that is that. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Great. let's see. So resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, May 6th at 6:06 PM to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled a local law, adding a new chapter 67 entitled fertilizer to regulate the use of fertilizers on the island, which shall provide as follows. You can go to the website or contact our town clerk for a summary of the law, but I will read the legislative intent as soon as I find it. Oh, there it is. The town board finds that the island's sole aquifer is fragile and contains a thinner lens than the rest of the east end, which makes it more susceptible to harms from fertilizer contamination. Further, fertilizers can combine with nitrates to cause harmful algae blooms, as experienced in West Neck Bay, Creek and Harbor, and Fresh Pond. Therefore, the town board has determined that New York State and Suffolk County fertilizer regulations must be augmented locally to ensure our aquifer and surface waters are protected. Summary of this law is as follows. The purpose of this local law is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and guests of Shelter Island by protecting the aquifer and surface waters, by imposing stringent regulations on the use of fertilizers on the island. So moved.
Second, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Be resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, May 6, 2024 at 6:08 PM to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled a local law amending chapter 133 entitled zoning to create a sky plane height restriction pyramid law, of which provides as follows. And then there's a description of the law. The legislative intent is that the town board finds that even though some single-family dwellings which do not exceed the maximum height are still inappropriate for the community in that they overshadow adjoining homes, particularly if they are constructed on narrow lots. Thus, the town board has determined that to ensure that homes are in keeping with an established neighborhood and do not create negative impacts on their neighbors, an additional height restriction is warranted. And then the summary is that the purpose of this local law is to add a second height limitation to ensure that homes or other structures are of an appropriate scale for the surrounding neighborhood and do not loom over adjoining properties. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, May 6, 2024 at 6:10 PM to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled a local law amending chapter 126 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to amend parking restrictions at the town dock at Bridge Street, of which provides as follows. A local law amending chapter 126 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to amend parking restrictions at the town dock at Bridge Street. The legislative intent is the town board finds that there should be additional 1 hour parking on the east side of the parking area for the town dock at Bridge Street to provide more parking opportunities. Additionally, the town inadvertently restricted parking on State Route 114 near the town dock, and as such will repeal same. And then the rest of the resolution goes on. You can get that at the town clerk or online. And the summary of the proposed law is the purpose of this local law is to reorganize the Bridge Street town dock parking area to create more parking opportunities and repeal certain parking regulations on Route 114 adjoining said area, as the town may not regulate state highways without state approval. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas the town is seeking to remediate Fresh Pond, a town property, whereas in furtherance thereof, the town is seeking to remove certain vegetation therefrom, which releases toxic substances which may be harmful to humans. Whereas the town has applied for a New York State DEC freshwater wetlands permit to conduct such removal, whereas the proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Whereas since the town is undertaking an uncoordinated review of the subject action, it has prepared a short form EAF and is and as lead agency through the town engineer, reviewed the same pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617 to determine whether the action would cause a significant adverse impact on the environment. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board, based on a thorough review of the subject EAF and the potential areas of environmental concern, hereby makes a negative determination of environmental significance, negative declaration, on the harvesting of toxic vegetation in Fresh Pond. And be it further resolved, town board determined that an environmental impact statement, EIS, will not be required. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas Kayak Shelter Island LLC, care of Adam Mills, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for 2024 summer season. And whereas the nature of the business is to rent stand-up paddle boards and kayaks and to provide guided tours primarily along Cockles Harbor Marine Water Trail, as outlined in the application, and whereas the applicant submitted $250 application fee, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that the granting of the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island, now therefore be resolved that Kayak Shelter Island LLC is hereby granted a license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the business shall be located at the end of Burns Road as outlined in the application. B, the location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Town of Shelter Island Police Department and the Shelter Island Highway Department. C, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 1st and November 30th of 2024. D, the hours of operation cannot exceed 9 a.m. to sunset. E, there shall be no parking spot guaranteed in connection with this application. F, the licensee shall not, oh wait, no. Is this the same application?
I think it is.
Oh, okay. F, the licensee shall not clone off parking spot at any time. G, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of trash created in connection with the operation of the business. H, the disposal of this trash shall be different than the receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. I, the licensee, shall maintain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to satisfaction of the town of Shelter Island insurance broker during the duration of this permit. J, the licensee shall remove all equipment daily. K, the licensee is subject to the execution of a commerce on town property agreement. Be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion, and be it further resolved that the storing equipment on town properties is prohibited. So moved.
Second. All in favor? Motion carried. Whereas Stars on Wheels LLC, care of Pepe Martinez, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for the 2024 summer season, and whereas the nature of the business is a food truck at the Wades Beach, as outlined in the application, whereas the applicant submitted $250 application fee, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that the granting of this license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island, now therefore be it resolved, the Stars Cafe is hereby granted the license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the food truck shall be located on the paved area north of the public restrooms adjacent to the large bocce ball courts. The location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Shelter Island Police Department and the Shelter Island Highway Department. C, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 24th and September 2nd, 2024. D, the hours of operation cannot exceed 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. E, there shall be no parking spot guaranteed in connection with this application. F, the licensee shall not clone off parking spot at any time. G, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of the trash created in connection with the operation of the business. H, the disposal of this trash shall be different than receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. I, the licensee, shall obtain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to satisfaction of town of Shelter Island insurance broker. J, the licensee shall provide Suffolk County Department of Health Services food truck permit. K, the licensee possesses all other necessary federal, state, and county licenses. L, the licensee shall adhere to Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1225B. M, the licensee shall utilize generator that is under 65 decibels for the distance of 25 feet. And the licensee shall obtain operating permit from the Town of Shelter Island Building Department. O, the license is subject to the execution of a Commerce on Town Property Agreement. Be it resolved that the Town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas Between the Forks LLC, doing business as The Islander, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for for 2024 summer season. And whereas the nature of the business is a food truck at the Crescent Beach, as outlined in the application, and whereas the applicant submitted $250 application fee, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that the granting of the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island, now therefore be it resolved that Between the Forks LLC, doing business as the Islander, that is hereby granted a license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the food truck shall be located east of the gazebo of the Crescent Beach in a spot designated by the town of Shelter Island. The food truck shall not block said gazebo. C, the location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Shelter Island Police Department and the Shelter Island Highway Department. D, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 27 and September 2nd, 2024. E, the hours of operation cannot exceed 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. F, there shall be no additional parking spots guaranteed in connection with this application. G, the licensee shall not cone off a parking spot at any time. H, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of the trash created in connection with the operation of the business. I, the disposal of this trash shall be different than receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. J, the licensee shall obtain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to satisfaction of Town of Shelter Island insurance broker. K, the licensee shall provide Suffolk County Department of Health Services food truck permit. L, the licensee possesses all other necessary federal, state, and county licenses. M, the licensee shall adhere to vehicle and traffic law, section 1225, subsection B. N, the licensee shall utilize generator that is under 65 decibels from a distance of 25 feet. O, the licensee shall obtain operating permit from the Town of Shelter Island Building Department. P, the license is subject to the execution of a commerce on town property agreement. Be it resolved that the Town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas Ride Shore LLC, care of John Iker and David Witzek, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for the 2024 summer season. And whereas the nature of the business is a launch service at the Crescent Beach, as outlined in the application, and whereas the applicant submitted $250 application fee, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that granting the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island, now therefore be resolved that Ride Shore LLC is hereby granted a license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the proposed 10 by 10 tent shall be located on the east end of Crescent Beach. B, proposed tent shall be removed at the end of each day. C, the location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Shelter Island Police Department and Shelter Island Highway Department. D, the area of business beach setup cannot be larger than 20 by 20. E, the requested tent cannot be larger than 10 by 10. F, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 17th and September 15th of 2024. G, there shall be no parking spot guaranteed in connection with this application. H, the licensee shall not cone off parking spot at any time. I, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of the trash created in connection with the operation of the business. J, the disposal of trash shall be different than the receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. K, the licensee shall obtain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to the satisfaction of the Town of Shelter Island's insurance broker. L, the licensee possesses all other necessary federal, state, and county licenses. M, the licensee is subject to the execution of a commerce and town property agreement. Be it resolved that the Town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion, and be it further resolved that due to the nature of the business, the Town of Shelter Island will not limit the hours of this operation. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Whereas Venture Out, care of Matthew Stromberg, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for the 2024 summer season, and whereas the nature of the business is to rent stand-up paddleboards, kayaks, conducts conduct beach yoga program, group classes, and similar as outlined in the application. And whereas the applicant submitted its $250 application fee, and whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that the granting of the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island, now therefore be it resolved that Venture Out Shelter Island LLC is hereby granted a license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the business shall be located as outlined in the application. B, the location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Shelter Island Police Department and the Shelter Island Highway Department. C, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 1st and October 10th, 2024. D, the hours of operation cannot exceed 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. E, the operation area of business cannot be larger than 20 foot by 20 foot. F, the requested tent cannot be larger than 10 foot by 10 foot. G, proposed storage locker shall be located within the 20 foot by 20 foot area. H, there shall be no parking spot guaranteed in connection with this application. I, the licensee shall not cone off parking spot at any time exceeding 10 minutes. J, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of the trash created in connection with the operation of the business. K, the disposal of this trash shall be different than receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. L, the licensee shall obtain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to the satisfaction of town of Shelter Island insurance broker. M, the license is subject to the execution of commerce on town property agreement. Be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas Bone Spa, care of Alexander Roy, has filed an application to conduct business on town property for the 2024 summer season. And whereas the nature of the business is to offer therapeutic massages at Crescent Beach, as outlined in the application. And whereas the applicant submitted $250 application fee. And whereas the town board has reviewed the application and determined that the granting of the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island. Now therefore, be it resolved, Bone Spa is hereby granted a license to operate the business as outlined in the application, subject to the following conditions. A, the business shall be placed in the location as outlined in the application with modification outlined in point G. B, the location of the licensee's business is subject to review and adjustment by the Shelter Island Police Department and the Shelter Island Highway Department. C, the business operation shall not exceed the period between May 17 and September 9, 2024. D, the hours of operation cannot exceed 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. E, the area of business cannot be larger than 20 feet by 20 feet. F, there shall be no more than 2 10-foot by 10-foot tents. G, proposed storage locker shall be located within the 20-foot by 20-foot area. H, there shall be no parking spot guaranteed in connection with this application. I, the licensee shall not cone off parking spots at any time. J, the licensee is responsible for daily disposal of the trash created in connection with the operation of the business. K, the disposal of this trash shall be different than receptacles provided by the town at the beaches. L, the licensee shall obtain appropriate certificate of liability insurance to satisfaction of town of Shelter Island insurance broker. M, the licensee possesses all other necessary federal, state, and county licenses. N, the license is subject to the execution of a commerce on town property agreement. Be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island reserves the right to revoke this permit at its discretion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried. Before you start, so we are skipping the next three. What I want to do, Amber, is do a special meeting at our work session on April 30th, because our next town board meeting isn't until May 6th. So I figure if we do a special meeting, we can approve the 5 that are getting taken off today, just to get them moving,
Okay.
especially these 3, because they're business.
I want to get started.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right, so now,
All
carry
right.
on.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Waterways Management Advisory Council, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Skylar Needham is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Waterways Management Advisory Council for the town of Shelter Island for a term to expire April 15th, 2027. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Be resolved that Heather Fenduras hereby appointed to serve as on-call driver for the senior center at the rate of $24.19 per hour, not to exceed 20 hours per week, retroactive to March 27th, 2024. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Whereas a vacancy exists as assessment aide for the town of Shelter Island, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Laurel Hardy is hereby appointed to serve as provisional assessment aide for the assessor's office effective April 22nd, 2024, for 30 hours per week with a probationary period of 26 weeks to be paid as per the 2024 budgets. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Be it resolved that Michelle Congdon is hereby appointed to serve as part-time court clerk at the rate of $27.15 per hour for the year of 2024, retroactive to January 1st, 2024. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign any and all documents in connection with the retainer agreement between the town of Shelter Island and Van Brunt, Juzwiak, and Russo PC Professional Services for the Community Housing Board. So moved.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Did you get one that was missing?
Yeah, I was missing that
You're
one.
missing-
That's
Oh,
why I was
okay.
confused.
oh, okay.
Oh, so we're not doing this one.
Oh, no, we had to skip these two because Meg has recused herself and you and I don't make a quorum.
So
Sorry, so we're down to.
we're here. Okay. Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign any and all documents in connection with the retainer agreement between the town of Shelter Island and Peter Johnson for the 2024 tax certiorari legal proceedings. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement and expend the sum of $1,100 in connection with the preparation for the Gatsby 73 Volunteer Ambulance Award Program fiscal year ending in 2023 between the town of Shelter Island and PenFlex Service Awards. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to deposit the sum of $138.38 from the Northern Safety and Industrial to the Highway Department's general ledger account, DA 2701, for a duplicate payment for in the year of 2023. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to deposit the sum of $3,208.26 from the Shelter Island Ambulance Foundation, Inc. to the 2024 Ambulance General Ledger account A4540.408 for the reimbursement of Staples order purchase. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to expend the sum of $200 from the A3120.491 PD contracts account to Inconnective LLC. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to expend the sum of $2,955 from the A3120.491 PD contracts account to At Scene LLC for the yearly subscription of iCrime Fighter from April 24th, 2024 to April 25th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Last but not least, be it resolved that 2024 general claims number 502 through 698 in the amount of $159,893.19. 2024 highway claims number 63 through 77 in the amount of $68,455.43. And 2024 Community Preservation Fund claims numbered 2 through 3 in the amount of $4,000 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, so that concludes that portion of our meeting, and we will go into the one public hearing that we have this evening. So it's a public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 133 entitled zoning. So Amber, if you could read the notice.
Public hearing on the proposed local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 133 entitled Zoning to alter the mechanism to exceed the maximum square foot living area for a one-family dwelling from a town board issued special permit to an area variance and to increase penalties.
Since it's something that we proposed, I don't know, Stephen, if you wanted to comment to just present it to the public?
Hey, good evening. So it's basically what the summary said. It's heretofore, we utilize the special permit process to grant relief from the 5,999 square foot living area maximum. It was ill-conceived and it really not appropriate to be used to grant relief from the SFLA maximum. So, and that's because, the standards that are within our code are not specific for SFLA applications. They're very general and again, inapplicable. So the more appropriate way to review SFLA applications is through an area variance, and that's how it's done by each and every municipality on Long Island, and probably New York State. No one does it by special permit. So we're bringing it back to the way it should be done. And then just to further support that change, the courts have repeatedly held that the inclusion of the permitted use in an ordinance as a special use, special permit, is tantamount to a legislative finding that the permitted use is in harmony with the general zoning plan and will not adversely affect the neighborhood. So if an Article 78 is brought, judges give more deference to the applicant than to the board, versus if it's an area variance, they give much more deference to the zoning board's decision as opposed to the applicant. So again, it's a no-brainer, and it's a very minor change, just again, taking the special permit process out of it, just making it a plain vanilla standard in the bulk schedule that an applicant who wants to exceed the 5,999 square feet can simply apply to the zoning board for relief. And the standards that they go through with the zoning board, I know we've gone through this ad nauseum at different work sessions, but it basically balances the benefit to the applicant by the grant of the variance weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community by such grant. And there's 5 factors that they weigh. One is whether and this is the most important factor that courts look at, is the undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. That's wholly appropriate for this type of review. That's really what you want to be the litmus test as to whether or not to deviate from the 5,999 square feet. But along with that, they have to review alternatives. The need for the expansion beyond the 5,999 square feet, can it be achieved by some other alternative feasible to the applicant? Whether it could be redesigned the dwelling, or land could be purchased next door to, give you more lot area, things like that. Substantiality, whether the area variance is substantial. So if you start with the 5,999 square feet, these 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 square foot houses that we've seen applied for could be deemed substantial. And then also whether there's a harm to the physical or environmental environment, or conditions rather, and then whether or not it was self-created. Our zoning board is very well versed in these standards, and the body best served to, fairly, process these applications.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the physical present audience that wishes to speak on this? I will then move to the online audience. The Zoom audience. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at this public hearing? Pam?
Hi, good evening. I just have one question. The one thing that seems to be changed is that the accessory buildings are not included in that 5,999 square foot total.
It's
That's
the-
been crossed out. I mean, you know, that's what's been stricken from what we have, that it was 6,000 including accessory buildings, and this legislation doesn't seem to include them. I'm wondering what happened with those. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about accessory buildings and being oversized, and there hasn't been a limit on the size of those at all. And I'm just curious as to why that part was stricken from the zones and the current legislation that we have.
I'm not sure. That's just because we took it out of that section. Now, the definition of SFLA includes that.
It includes all buildings on the property.
Other conditions.
That are
Yeah.
conditioned in livable space.
All structures that are conditioned.
Okay. I just noticed that it was not really included in, you talk about just the single family dwellings and not that, but if it includes all of them, then I think it's a wonderful thing to pass. I applaud you all for having this happen tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, there not being any others, I will close this public hearing. And we will go back into the regular meeting. Is there anyone from the public who has, oh, Kim Nolan, are you on the public hearing part or a different topic? And you're muted. Still muted if you're talking. Still muted?
How about now?
Oh, now we can hear
Now it
you.
works.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah, so-
I apologize for my computer. Regarding the public hearing tonight.
Okay, so I guess let me reopen that public hearing. So we'll
Oh,
put that
okay.
on pause due to technical difficulties, just so
Yes,
we're legally still in it then. Okay.
and I do apologize again. Actually, I'm in support. And I just think that it needs an addition, which is, and I've spoken about this a lot at the comprehensive plan meetings, that the town is imposing significant restrictions on residential property owners. And, as I said, this particular one, I really actually support. However, I do believe that the town needs to think about the users of our resources and who besides residential property owners who are paying 95% of the taxes in the town, who besides them uses our resources. Therefore, I would point to that you have significant number of non-conforming uses in our residential neighborhoods, and that instead of their expansion being subject to the special permit process, which it is right now under the code 133-23, I think you should raise the level of kind of like consideration and importance to their expansion being subject to a variance, physical expansion being subject to a variance, just as you have done for residential properties. And I would use as the legislative background for that, what the town attorney just described, that an area variance weighs the benefit to the applicant squarely against the burden to the health, safety, and welfare that may be suffered by the community surrounding. It's exactly the same legislative intent. So while not directly commenting on the current drafting, I say that it contains a rather significant omission when it excludes some of the biggest users of our resources, including water, in the neighborhood. And the expansion of these uses oftentimes carries with the expansion much more significant use of resources, in particular water. And that other than, certain specific entities, and I'm not, trying to shut anybody down, there is no real monitoring of, what large users do use of the water. Thank you very much for your patience with my technological difficulties and for listening to me. I will mention that this was a topic at the Shelter Island Association earlier today. And I would tell you there is general support from many neighborhoods for what I'm saying.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Right, just in case anyone else was having any
I was gonna say, anybody else?
technical, I'll give it a second more before I prematurely close it.
Chase out the gremlins.
Yes. Okay, so now we will close this public hearing, I guess.
Make motion to close?
Yes, we'll do it formally. Motion to close. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we will put this on tomorrow's, it's already on the agenda, subject to us closing it tonight. So now, if there's any topic the public wishes to speak on, this is your time. Pam?
I just have one question about Middle Harbor Road Town Landing. That's not on the SATF list, and the dock that is existing at that town landing, and what's the status of that dock being removed? 2 years ago, the town attorney sent a letter to the owners of the Ramsted Inn that they had to remove the floating docks there. And that hasn't been done. And that dock is still sitting there. And I thought that it was agreed by the previous town board that that dock would be removed. I was wondering how the progress was moving along with that.
I don't have an answer to that today, but I can check into it and get back to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to close today's town board meeting.
I'll make motion.
Second.
I vote yes.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Night.
Wow.